Welcome back to Real House DIY. Today we're looking at some must-have versatile homeowner tools for doing some basic maintenance and renovations. Specifically for this tool, I've had some viewer comments asking what it is. So we're going to be talking about how to remove trim and pulling nails. I'll get some links to all these tools and some more in the description. Go check it out. Left to right we have a putty knife, box cutter, blocking pliers, hammer, a nail puller or cat's paw, and a crowbar. So if you're removing some trim, first you're going to use the knife on the box cutter right along the trim to paint edge so you don't ruin any of the paint. Then you use the putty knife, get right underneath the trim, start opening up the gap, and then use the crowbars to get in a little bit deeper, get more leverage to get that trim off. Then for removing nails, assuming you're not going to be just cutting them off with some cutters, you can hammer them out from the back. Then get a good grip on them with the locking pliers or the nail puller or crowbar. Get some quick demonstrations for you next, removing some trim and removing the nails. So right over here, have some door trim that I'm going to be removing. And assume you don't want to damage or peel any of the paint on the wall while you're getting this trim off. You're going to use your box cutter or utility knife. Just going to score right in that corner where the trim meets the wall. If that's been painted over for the rest of the trim here, you can score on the inside edge as well. Chances are this joint at the top is nailed or glued together, so you want to score all the way around the doorway, and this is going to all come off as one piece. Now you probably find right up at the top, they're often not going to paint the top of the trim since you don't see it, and you'll often find some nice gaps up here at the top as well to start prying from. So you have your thin putty knife that's going to get right in there first. You can find an opening, start to pry that trim off, get that right behind the trim. So then once you start getting a good opening started with this, then be careful, it might be some thick paint drips from the wall painting behind here as well. So then you can start trying to get the crowbar or nail puller into that gap, get some more leverage. At this point, you'll want to use 2 bars so you can pry one, get space for the next one, and move down the wall. There we can see the trim starting to pull away from the wall. Of course, if you don't want to risk marring the wall like I'm doing here, I'm going to be repainting anyways. But if you don't want that to happen, put some tape down if you're just going to be taking the trim off and then getting new trim back on. This part down at the floor, if you have carpeting, this might come out last. You're going to tip down the top and get this out last. Because this carpeting and a thick carpet pad, that goes down another inch. So you might have some nails pretty low down there, and you can't get it straight out past the carpeting. So as the trim came out all in one piece, you can see those edges are indeed glued together. You can see those paint drips from painting the walls over the years. We have some nails on the back of the trim, which you can cut off or pull out. Then we have some nails that stayed in the wall or the doorway. For a nail like this one right here, that's where I'm going to use my cat's paw or nail puller. You can use this end, and you can see why it's called a cat's paw. It resembles the paw of a cat. Gets claws on either side of the nail head. I'll pull out just like that. Of course, if there was a nail in the drywall, you want to be careful pulling that out. This is going to have a lot of pressure and it's going to put an indent or break the drywall. In that case, you can use a piece of wood or your crowbar, get behind the nail, and this is going to put the pressure out over, say, this piece of wood trim, and then you won't damage the drywall. If you have any more difficult nails, or especially for larger nails, you're going to need some more leverage. And that's where you're going to use this end of the crowbar. And you can tell that will come out a lot easier versus using the small nail puller. If you happen to have a nail where the nail head is broken off or it's damaged and you can't get a grip on it with the cat's paw, you can either cut that off or you can get a really good grip on it with the locking pliers. There's also some specialty pliers where you can get a really good grip on it. That has a curve to it for getting leverage when you're turning it. As you can see, this is just going to bend it at a 90-degree angle almost. So with this one here, you can get another tool underneath here that will help pull it more straight out. That's even more important for your trim, where you have the sharp nail head. There's nothing to grip onto here, so you can't just pull that straight out too easily. If you use a hammer and hammer it back out the front, then it's going to damage the front of the trim. So that's where you're either going to cut this right off or get a grip on it and pull it out the back. You can see there's the nail head pulled right out the back of the wood. And taking a look at the front, it's nice and clean. Next, maybe you have a piece of wood, you need to get the nails out, and they're just exposed heads. This isn't a nice piece of trim. So just going to use the hammer. Get those nails out from the back, so then you have access to the nail heads. And of course, you can use the claw part of the hammer. If you need some extra leverage, use your crowbar. Now where the cat's paw really shines, if you don't have access to hit the nail from the back, you can't get a grip on there, that's where you're going to get the cat's paw right about there. Hammer it under the nail head, and then you can start to pull it up like that. So now get that nail head up above the surface, can get really good leverage with the crowbar now. Get the nail out. That's all there is to it. You got your must-have homeowner tools for removing trim and pulling nails. My personal favorite, the cat's paw or nail puller, very versatile tool. Again, I'll get the links in the description. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks for watching.